The first few weeks were difficult, but something began to change. The patients started talking to me. They told me stories, they told me about their lives, and above all, they told me about the food. Donna Carmen from Bed 7 told me one day, "My dear, when I was a child, my grandmother made a mole that was so good it made you cry. She died, without giving me the recipe. I've been trying to replicate it for 40 years, but it never turns out the same." I asked her what she remembered. She described each flavor with a precision that impressed me. I spent 3 nights experimenting until I brought her a dish. She tasted it, and tears fell onto the tortilla. "This is it. It's exactly this one." Don Rafael from Bed 12 asked me for the rice pudding his mother used to make for him when he was sick. It was from a specific region and had an ingredient no one else used: burnt cinnamon. I made it for him, and he ate 3 bowls. Little by little, my cooking at the hospice became something I hadn't expected. Each patient gave me a memory, and I transformed it into a dish. These were recipes that didn't exist in any book. Recipes from dead grandmothers, from forgotten mothers, from childhoods in villages that no longer exist. Recipes that lived only in the memories of people who were about to die, and that if no one cooked them one last time, would disappear forever. I started writing them all down in a notebook. Each recipe with a patient's name and the story behind it. One Tuesday morning, the hospice director called me into her office. "Isabel, I need to talk to you about something delicate. There's a volunteer who comes on Thursdays to read to the patients. He's been coming for 2 years. But a nurse noticed something strange. This volunteer spends a lot of time talking to the patients about food. He asks them about family recipes, specific ingredients, cooking techniques." I asked who the volunteer was. The director showed me the registration form. There was a photo of a man with a cap and glasses and a name I would recognize anywhere in the world: Andres Montero. My stomach sank. Montero was a volunteer at the hospice where I worked, but he didn't know I was there because our days didn't overlap. The director continued, "A patient who passed away last month, Mrs. Elena, told her daughter before she died that a very kind young man used to visit her and ask for the recipe for her famous tres leches cake, which had won a regional competition 30 years ago. The daughter didn't think much of it until last week when she went to Montero's restaurant and saw a new dessert on the menu called seasonal tres leches. The daughter tasted it and called crying, saying it was exactly like her mother's cake." I gasped. Montero wasn't volunteering out of kindness. He was going to the hospice to extract recipes from dying people who wouldn't be around to claim them. The recipes that critics described as touching the soul and tasting of memories were the memories of dead people, stolen from their mouths before they could close forever. The culinary genius was a thief. I sat in my hospice kitchen, my hands trembling with rage. I thought of Donna Carmen, Don Rafael, and Montero sitting by their beds, extracting the only treasure they had left. Then I thought of something else. Montero had an annual television competition where he invited young chefs to compete against him. No competitor had beaten him in 8 seasons. Registration closed in 3 weeks. I signed up that very night. 3 weeks later, I received confirmation. I was in. The competition was live, in front of 200 people and broadcast nationwide. Montero didn't know I was one of the competitors because the production doesn't reveal the names until the day of the recording. I spent the next 2 months preparing. I didn't practice one of my own recipes. I practiced someone else's. Someone Montero had met at the hospice. Someone whose recipe he had stolen and put on his menu as his own. Someone who was no longer alive to claim it. But his daughter was alive, and she was sitting in the front row of the audience, with a folder full of evidence, waiting for my signal. On the day of the recording, I arrived at 6 in the morning. At 9, the cameras started rolling. The host introduced me, and the contestants were presented one by one. When they called my name and I walked in front of the cameras, I saw the exact moment Montero recognized me. His TV smile froze for half a second. His eyes narrowed, but he recovered quickly. The host asked me, "Tell us about yourself, Isabel." I looked directly at the main camera and said, 2 years ago, Chef Montero fired me for putting rosemary in a sauce. After that, the only place that would hire me was a hospice. And there I discovered something about Chef Montero's cooking that the whole country needs to know. The host was speechless.